Paleo Runner Podcast is devoted to finding better ways to live, run, train, and eat. I'm your host, Aaron Olson. You can find more information by going to paleorunner.org. If you enjoy the show, please go to iTunes and leave a review. Search for Paleo Runner in iTunes and click Ratings and Reviews. You can also follow me on Facebook.com/RunPaleo or on Twitter @RunPaleo. I wanted to take a minute to let you know about a product I've been using called 3Fuel. 3Fuel is a sports drink that gives you fat, protein, and carbohydrates to use as a fuel source. Unlike sugary sports drinks, 3Fuel gets absorbed slowly into your bloodstream to give you sustained energy throughout your workout. If you'd like to give it a try, you can get 10% off by using the coupon code 3FOLSON. Go to paleorunner.org and click 3Fuel at the top of the page. My guest today is Stephanie Rothstein. She's a professional marathoner for Adidas and co-founder of Picky Bars. After cutting gluten from her diet, her running took a dramatic turn for the better. Stephanie dropped 11 minutes in her marathon PR, going from 2:40 to 2:29. Stephanie, thanks so much for being part of the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into running in the first place?
Sure. Probably when I was in middle school or even a little younger, just my dad kind of always encouraged me to run, and it's not like he really forced me into it, but he had a little running background, so he thought maybe I would enjoy it. And then into grade school, into high school, I joined the cross country team, but I honestly wasn't even sold on the sport. I was like, this is punishment for people. And I lived in Phoenix, Arizona at the time, it was super hot. So that made running even worse, because I was like, why am I running when it's 100 degrees out? But that was just something you did, obviously when you lived there. Uh-huh. And then, I just had a lot of encouragement from my mom throughout high school. And then actually my dad passed away in my senior year of high school. And I think part of that kind of changed my perspective on running. And it kind of turned from, this is a task that I have to do, to like running became a gift. And then I kind of started to realize it was all about what you put into it mentally, and physically, exactly what you got back out. And it was so different than many other sports where you're either just born, talented, or you have a certain skill for a certain sport. And running was different. You can make it however you wanted. And then I was hooked into it.
So at what age did you figure out that you were pretty good at this sport?
This year. No, just kidding. It's hard to say because it's all relative to where you're at, I think. When my junior year of high school, I was starting to run times that were pretty decent, times that like maybe I'd be able to run in college, on a scholarship. But I think I'd run like a 5:28 mile in my junior year. And then after my dad passed away, and like I said, something kind of changed in me. I had a big breakthrough in my senior year of high school, and I ended up running 4:58 in the mile. And I think that kind of changed my perspective of thinking, okay, like I could go on to run in college, and then thinking about, wow, could I be an All-American? And that was kind of like a top honor to get when you're in college, at the highest level you can get. And I ended up being 2-time All-American when I went to UC Santa Barbara, and then that showed me that maybe I could make a career out of it and possibly make an Olympic team one day. So it was just kind of systematic steps, along the way, but a lot of big dreams and goals that came along with it.
Mm-hmm. So, you've had a few missteps along the way. You found out that you actually have celiac disease. What time did that occur, and how did you figure that out?
Yeah, that diagnosis came in the beginning of 2010. What happened when I graduated college, I tried to start a professional career, I thought I could run post-collegiately, but for about 2.5 years, I was just sick and injured, and like my weight was really low, and my iron levels were low, and I kept getting injured, and we had no idea why. It's kind of like no matter what I did, I could supplement iron till my veins were red, and we tried to see like a bunch of doctors to get treatment on all my like hamstring and back, but nothing seemed to work. Like every time I'd get treatment, nothing stuck. And so I went through, I would say, a really dark period of my life where I was semi-depressed, didn't really know what to do. One day, I thought like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to come back and have a great career. And the next day I'd be like, I think I'm going to school and be a lawyer. And the next day I wanted to have a baby. So yeah, my poor boyfriend at the time, it was crazy. But then I just started prodding around, finding different doctors and trying to seek out answers. And I was lucky enough to find a naturopath who helped me, and he put me on an elimination diet. And he's like, have you ever thought about food allergies? And back in 2010, like that was almost, as funny as it is only 3 years ago, it was still relatively unheard of that like you could actually have a reaction in your body from food. And but that was all that it was for me. And and then I got that diagnosis in April 2010.
So had you gone to conventional doctors prior to going to the naturopath? Had you ever had like a test done to see if you reacted, a blood test?
Yeah, I hadn't had a blood test, but I had different things like in college because I had low iron. I had some like, sorry to be gross, but I had like lead in my stool at the time, and so we were like, well, that's not normal. So at like I think I was 21 or 22, I had like a colonoscopy and endoscopy, and that's super weird. They were like, you're the youngest patient we've ever had to have something like that, you know. And so I got those tests, but still nothing was positive in there. So it was all these like mystery phantom tests, and nothing proved real. But honestly, the easiest one was as soon as they're like, take gluten out of your diet, and when I did, it was unbelievable, like the change it made. So I'm like, I don't need like another test to actually tell me I have a problem. It was just easy as not eating it.
Right. So what was that elimination diet like that you went on?
That was pretty brutal. That was like about 4 to 5 weeks where you not only took out gluten, but like a big allergy. So it was gluten, dairy, soy, and then you take out like red meat, sugar, peanut butter, like nightshades, tomatoes, a bunch of food. And so at first it was just mentally challenging because you lose a lot of energy and your body's like, how do I function off, like not very many things to eat. But then scary, like probably 2 weeks later, I was like, but I actually feel good. Like I had more energy. I didn't wake up feeling like I was hungover every day. And I was like, there's something to this. And then what they did is you slowly bring like the big suspects back in, like you bring gluten back in, you bring dairy back in a couple of days at a time. And it was like immediate. As soon as I brought it back in, I went right back into the symptoms I had. So as challenging as it was absolutely worth it.
Wow. That's amazing. So I've heard of like elimination diets where you'll just drink like a chicken broth soup or something, and then you'll start adding things back. Was it something like that?
Yeah. I was able to eat a couple more things. I could have like vegetables, just plain skinless chicken. Gosh, what could I have? Rice. Just kind of like very outside, whole foods, like outside the perimeter, if you would say in the supermarket. The chicken broth, I think I would have died. That would have been like, you can only, how many calories could that be a day? But the chicken, that makes sense because it's pretty pure. But it was really just probably 5 or 7 different foods that I could have.
Okay, and you did that for a few weeks, and then
I did that for 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yep.
So you mentioned that you were low on iron and you were suffering injuries. What kind of symptoms, if people might be hearing this and have similar symptoms, what should they look for?
Sure, what I kind of say, like generally, if people just have a general feeling of like they're tired in life or they either wake up feeling groggy, well, that's not normal. That's not like, I haven't had my coffee, I'm working too much. Like you should generally feel pretty good in life, like regardless of kind of like the activities you do. So the low iron just felt like, getting off the couch like was a task, or going out to run errands. And since I was obviously trying to run, it felt a lot harder. Like things while I was training, it was like shortness of breath, unable to complete something that would be a totally easy 40-minute run for me. It just felt like the hardest workout ever. And then just things like you just shouldn't settle for, this is just how I feel in life. That should never be true.
Is low iron, is that common for
That
someone
is common.
Sensitive to gluten? Okay.
What actually happens is when someone just has a food they're reacting to, the body inside is like literally attacking itself, and so all they're doing is a malabsorption of nutrients. So no matter what you put in your body, the good is not going to let you absorb that. And iron is like one of the big sources that we need. So even if you're, like I said, if you're supplementing with irons, or you eat a ton of red meat or leafy green vegetables, you could eat that, like I said, until blue in the face, but you're not even going to absorb it. Uptake is going to be completely blocked just because you're eating something that's almost canceling that out. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that must have been great to finally figure out what was wrong. What do you eat now?
Good question. And actually, since that diagnosis, I've had a couple more allergies pop up, and that's probably the hardest part about celiac is however long you don't know that you've had it, it just damages your intestinal lining, so it actually like flattens they call it the villi in your intestines. So then you can start becoming allergic to just lots of different things. And the big one, I became allergic to dairy and then eggs and soy. The soy's not that problem. I'm not a big fan of that, but dairy and eggs obviously a challenge because those are great sources of protein and fat stuff. What I typically eat now is I would say a bunch of rice, potatoes, all types of veggies, all fruit. I eat a lot of red meat. I eat a lot of bacon. Actually, people are really surprised about that, but I eat a ton of bacon. And my general rule of thumb is I don't avoid anything that I'm not allergic to. Okay. Because I'm so limited with my allergies. Like, I'll try to eat whatever I can: beans, avocados, dark chocolate. Pretty much everything that I can eat I'm allergic to, I'll eat. Okay. And picky bars, of course.
Yeah. How did you find out that you were allergic to soy and eggs as well?
That was kind of just over time. A lot of times what happens to people when they have celiac, initially they'll feel good. Maybe their first 4 to 6 months, like their stomach will be like, oh, this is much better. But then they almost relapse, and you try to figure out, well, what am I eating? Am I still eating gluten? But you kind of search out, like, the first thing that happens is people become dairy intolerant. And it was really just trial and error. Since I knew what Elimination Diet was like to find out about gluten, I just did the same thing. I was like, all right, let me look at my diet and see, like, what could be stuff that. And when I, took out the dairy and then I took out eggs, I was like, crap, that's it. So unfortunately, I was smart enough to know, how to do it again. And I hope I don't have to keep doing it, but that's the best way. Just try to narrow down what you think you eat all the time. And if you're still having problems, odds are if you take that out, you might find something out.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned there that you eat a lot of bacon. Are you concerned about the fat that's in bacon? I know a lot of runners try to eat lean, but how does that work for you?
Yeah, for me, maybe I'm not the best model for it, but it's because I run so much. On average, I run between 80 to 100 miles a week. And, honestly, then I go to the gym a few times doing strength training. It's tough for me to actually keep calories in and keep weight on because I just burn so much that, we know my heart is obviously really efficient. So, in my opinion, it's like bacon and that cholesterol or fat is the worst thing I'm eating. And as a whole, I think, that's really fine. It doesn't make me not have energy or anything like that. I personally can afford it, so it never really.
Yeah.
But I don't. When I say I eat it a lot, I don't have it every day. It's not like okay, no, you're definitely having that. It's maybe 2 or 3 times a week, which might be more than the normal person, but it definitely doesn't hurt me. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned something there a few minutes ago. Picky bars. What you and Lauren Fleshman came up with this idea to start making energy bars. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's Lauren Fulton and then her husband Jesse Thomas. He's actually our CEO of the company. So at the time, Jesse he's a professional triathlete and he was having gluten intolerance as well. It's not celiac, but definitely an intolerance. And I had just met Lauren in 2008, and she's like, hey, I'm kind of tinkering around in the kitchen making some recipes for energy bars so Jesse could have them on his long bike rides. And she's like, I've eaten so many bars out there, I'm just tired of what they taste like, and a lot of them don't have real food in them. They're kind of fillers, maybe soy protein or just different things that isn't just real food. So she's like, I kind of want a real food bar that's balanced for sports. And then we were looking for that 4-to-1 carb to protein ratio because that's really good post-exercise, and then also it's just good in your bloodstream, when you won't have a big sugar spike or anything like that or crash. And so she just invited me over to the kitchen, and I started messing around making them with her, and we kind of first made them into little ball-shaped bars, and we let friends try them, and they're like, "This is really good. You need to sell these." Mm-hmm. And we had no intention of making a business out of it. But one day we just sat down and Googled how to start a food energy bar company from your kitchen. And honestly, next thing led to another. We looked up kind of how to become an LLC, and then Jesse came on board. He had just gotten his MBA at Oregon, and so he kind of had the knowledge of maybe a little more business sense than we did, but we definitely had the platform for it, and it gave us something to do when we were both injured and trying to get our running careers going. Yeah, no, he launched the company, and it's been awesome. It's become a picky nation that's taken over.
That's great. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your running. I know you just ran Grandma's Half Marathon a few weeks ago, and I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. How did you like Minnesota?
Oh, it was great. I've run there. I've run in Minnesota one or two other times, and it's just a great running community because they get it, and there's a lot of support there. And then, since what Grandma did is they made the bid for the U.S. Championship, so it's technically not the Grandma's, not actually the Grandma's Half or the Gary Bjorklund, but it's our own U.S. Championships within that. that race. And so, yeah, it was just a great atmosphere, and that race was an amazing job organizing and making you feel welcome.
Mm-hmm. How's the humidity coming from Arizona up to Minnesota? Was that a big change for you?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty perfect day. It was like 50 degrees and calm winds and like a little foggy. So I didn't feel the humidity that much, considering like I've run in New York this summer and a couple other places like that's humidity for sure. So yeah, it wasn't that bad, but I know it can get pretty hot and humid.
Right. So what has it been like for you moving up to the marathon and longer distance events?
It was kind of a natural progression for me. Since I ran the 10,000 in college, I think sometimes your body just tells you what you're going to be good at, what event. Some people take a long time in their career to figure out what their niche is, but it was kind of just an easy transition for me. You could tell by workout, I would excel on long tempo runs, not, marathon running. Mm-hmm. I think that get my feeling down and all that, the marathon definitely going to be my event. So, yeah, it's a really easy transition for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll ever go longer than a marathon, like an ultra?
Yeah, I've been asked that before. Part of me is tempted because I see, a couple of like 50-mile and 100-mile races, and I have heard that as women as you go longer, and this is women actually get closer to men in their ability to finish, times, because we can, I think, I don't know what it is, we metabolize that better when it comes to longer distance. So part of me is tempted, but then the other part of me is like, no, I think I'll stay with the marathon until I'm not fast enough. But hopefully that never happens.
Is that your main focus right now, marathon then?
Yeah, I definitely don't ignore the shorter stuff in summer. Again, our whole goal is to run some, 10K up to half marathon distance in preparation for this fall, and that way we will, get all the shorter stuff. And kind of, you can just run more races that are shorter distances. I can only run one or two really big marathons a year, mm-hmm. So I'm able to get a lot of race experience with the shorter stuff. And, you never want to get away from that because you essentially need that speed where it translates to the marathon.
Okay. So how do you go about training for such a wide variety of events?
It's my husband, Ben Bruce. He's actually my coach, and he just kind of has a general approach or a mixed bag approach to training where you need to kind of hit every system every couple of weeks. So you don't really want to focus on one type of workout all the time. And, sometimes you might sit down and look at the schedule, and 1 week, I'll have a leg speed workout in the beginning of the week, which might be a set of 200 and 400. And then the next workout will be a, 6 to 10 mile tempo run followed by a 18 or 20 mile long run that weekend. So you're essentially hitting up all systems. And then every couple of weeks, you have to kind of, depending on what event you actually are getting ready for, you might be more specific. So if I was getting ready for a 10K, I might do something like 5 to 8 hard kilometers on the track versus if I was getting ready for a half marathon, I might do, 4 times 2 mile repeat, stuff like that. But in general, you just want to kind of hit everything every week.
Okay. So now that you finally got your diet figured out, how do you stay injury-free? Has that been a problem since you've recovered?
No, I've been, knock on wood, I've been pretty fortunate to, once I have the diet under control, and a big part of staying healthy has been my increase in my strength training program. And my doctor, John Ball, he's a chiropractor down in Phoenix, Arizona. He teamed up with one of his friends, who's a strength trainer, Jim O'Neill down in Iowa, and they just developed, based on doing some testing on me, they developed a big strength program for me about 2 years ago, and 2 to 3 times a week I'm in the gym. I'm doing all that ancillary work, and I think that's a big part that has kept me healthy because it just strengthens the tendons and ligaments, and then I'm able to do more running and recover from workouts. And honestly, my life is devoted to recovering, so it's all a blend of getting 9 hours of sleep and being strong kind of as a distance runner.
Okay, so what do you have coming up next?
So this Sunday actually is the Falmouth Road Race, and that's out in Boston, Falmouth, Massachusetts. That's a really cool race. It's a 7 mile that starts in Woods Hole, and it runs along the water to Falmouth. And that'll kind of end my summer racing series. And then my marathon plans this fall, I'm going to be doing the U.S. Championship Marathon, which is Twin Cities.
Oh, great.
Which you obviously know. Yeah, and that's October 6th. So that'll be my big focus of the fall.
Okay. Well, where can people go to find out more about you and to follow you online?
Yeah, so they can go to, I have a website. It's stephandbenbruce.com. And then you can follow me on Twitter on Steph_Rothstein. And then we also have a Twitter handle, Stephen Ben D. That's for the website. And of course, obviously Picky Bars. We have our Picky Bars website, at Picky Bars on Twitter. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find out what's going on.
Okay. Well, great. Stephanie, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you, and thanks so much for being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to another episode of Paleo Runner Podcast. For more information, go to paleorunner.org. Thanks for listening.